Imagine this for a second. What if the most powerful gut-healing meals on Earth were never created in modern labs, never packaged in supplements, and never sold as expensive health products, but instead were eaten thousands of years ago by ordinary people who didn't even know what a probiotic was, yet somehow built diets that modern science is only now beginning to understand? Think about it. While today we spend money chasing gut health through pills, powders, and trending diets, ancient cultures were quietly eating combinations of food that worked with the body in ways that feel almost engineered. Not random meals, not accidental traditions, but structured combinations that supported digestion, stabilized energy, and reduced inflammation long before those words existed in scientific vocabulary. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Some of those meals were recorded in one of the oldest texts in history, not as health advice, not as a diet plan, but simply as everyday food, which means the people eating them weren't trying to optimize their gut. They were just living. And yet their meals were doing exactly that. Now stay with me, because what you're about to see is not just history. It's a pattern. A system that keeps repeating itself across time. 15 meals, each built in a way that the human body still recognizes today. And there's something else you need to know before we go further. Meal number 6 on this list combines two simple foods in a way that modern researchers are now studying closely because of its impact on inflammation in the gut. And meal number 13 works almost exactly like what people today call a gut reset, except it existed long before that idea even had a name. And the final meal is something completely different. Not just a dish, but a full system made up of 7 specific foods listed together thousands of years ago. A combination so complete that researchers today are still trying to understand why it works so well when eaten together. So don't skip ahead, because this isn't just about food. It's about understanding something your body already knows, but you may have forgotten. Let's start with something simple, something almost everyone has seen before, but very few people truly understand. A pot of lentils slowly cooking over heat. There's a moment recorded thousands of years ago where a man comes in from the field completely exhausted. He's starving. Not just hungry, but drained to the point where nothing else matters. And in front of him is a bowl of lentil stew. What happens next seems irrational. He gives up something incredibly valuable just to eat that meal. And for generations, people have looked at that moment and thought it was foolish. But maybe they missed the point. Because in the ancient world, lentils weren't just food. They were one of the most efficient survival meals ever created. When lentils are prepared properly, soaked, slowly cooked, and combined with specific ingredients, they become something far more than just a source of calories. They provide plant-based protein, iron, magnesium, zinc, and folate in levels that many modern diets struggle to reach even with supplementation. But the real transformation happens in the details most people ignore. Garlic, for example, when crushed, releases a compound called allicin. This isn't just flavor. It's a bioactive substance that has been studied for its ability to support immune function and help control harmful bacteria in the digestive system. Then there's cumin, a spice that actively stimulates digestive enzymes, making it easier for the body to break down food efficiently. And coriander, which helps calm the digestive tract, reducing spasms and the uncomfortable bloating that so many people today consider normal after eating. Now put all of that together. Lentils that provide steady energy because of their low glycemic index, meaning they don't spike blood sugar and crash it afterward. Garlic that supports the body's defense systems. Spices that actively assist digestion instead of burdening it. What you end up with is not just a meal, but a system. A structure that feeds the body while also helping the body process that very food more effectively. And that changes everything, because most modern meals do the opposite. They overload the digestive system, spike energy, and leave you feeling heavy, tired, and sluggish afterward. But this kind of meal does something different. It leaves the body feeling stable, light, functional, and that's not an accident. Now shift the environment. Imagine a hot, dry climate where dehydration is a constant risk and heavy meals can slow the body down even further. In that kind of setting, you wouldn't want dense, difficult-to-digest food. You would need something cooling, hydrating, and easy on the stomach. And that's exactly where another ancient combination appears. Fermented milk mixed with cucumber and fresh herbs. At first glance, it seems too simple to matter. But look closer. Cucumber is made up of over 90% water, along with minerals that help the body retain hydration more effectively. It's light, easy to digest, and doesn't place pressure on the stomach. But the real shift happens when milk is fermented. Because once that process begins, it stops being just milk and becomes a living food. Fermented dairy contains beneficial bacteria like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, microorganisms that play a direct role in maintaining the balance of the gut microbiome. These are the same types of bacteria that modern probiotic supplements are trying to deliver, except here, they exist naturally within the food itself. And then come the herbs. Mint, for example, doesn't just add freshness. It actively relaxes the smooth muscles of the digestive tract, reducing spasms and helping food move more smoothly through the system. When all of these elements are combined, hydration, beneficial bacteria, and digestive support, the result is something that doesn't just nourish the body but restores balance to it. Now think about how different that is from what most people eat today. Heavy meals followed by discomfort. Quick energy followed by crashes. A constant cycle of trying to fix digestion after it's already been disrupted. But these meals were designed in a completely different way. They worked with the body instead of against it. And that pattern keeps repeating. Because the next meal might look even simpler, but it carries one of the most powerful nutritional structures ever recorded. Barley bread with olive oil. Not wheat. Barley. A grain that was once considered the food of ordinary people, farmers, workers, travelers. But hidden inside it is something extraordinary. Beta-glucan. A type of soluble fiber that forms a gel-like substance in the digestive tract, slowing down the absorption of glucose, stabilizing blood sugar, and feeding beneficial gut bacteria at the same time. And when you combine that with olive oil, especially extra virgin olive oil, you introduce powerful anti-inflammatory compounds that support the body in ways remarkably similar to modern medications, but without the side effects. Now imagine eating that every day, not as a special diet, not as a health trend, but as normal food. Over time, what would that do to your body, to your digestion, to your energy levels? That's the question most people never stop to ask. And that's exactly why these meals matter more than ever today. Because what you're starting to see is not just a collection of old recipes. It's a blueprint, a way of eating that the human body has been responding to for thousands of years. And we're just getting started. Now here's where things start to get even more interesting. Because once you begin to notice the pattern, you realize these meals were never built around a single ingredient. They were always layered, almost like each part was solving a different problem inside the body at the same time. And the next combination proves that in a way that's hard to ignore. Imagine a simple bowl placed in front of you, chickpeas, olives, and fresh herbs. Nothing complicated, nothing flashy, but there's a reason combinations like this lasted for centuries without needing to be reinvented. Because they worked. Chickpeas on their own are already powerful. They provide plant protein, fiber, and slow-digesting carbohydrates that release energy steadily instead of overwhelming the system. But what really matters is what that fiber does once it reaches the gut. It becomes fuel for beneficial bacteria, the kind that support digestion, reduce inflammation, and help regulate how your body processes food. Now add olives or extra virgin olive oil into that same bowl. Suddenly, you're not just feeding the gut, you're calming it. Because olives contain compounds that reduce oxidative stress and help stabilize the internal environment of the digestive system. And then come the herbs. Small, almost invisible in quantity, but incredibly active in function. They don't just sit on top of the food. They interact with your body, relaxing the digestive tract, reducing spasms, and making the entire process smoother from start to finish. When you put all of that together, protein, fiber, healthy fats, and digestive support, something very clear happens. The body doesn't struggle with the meal. It accepts it, processes it efficiently, and moves on without that heavy, uncomfortable feeling that so many people have come to expect after eating. That's not normal. It just became common. And meals like this remind you what normal actually feels like. Now take that idea one step further. What if instead of just combining a few ingredients, you built something intentionally designed to complete itself nutritionally? Not one grain, not one legume, but multiple elements working together to fill in each other's gaps. There's a record of exactly that kind of bread, made from wheat, barley, lentils, and millet. At first glance, it might seem like a strange mix. But when you break it down, it starts to make perfect sense. Grains provide energy and certain amino acids, but they're incomplete on their own. Lentils bring in the missing pieces of protein. Together, they form a more complete structure, something much closer to what modern nutrition calls a complete protein source. But the real shift isn't just in the nutrients. It's in how the body processes them. When these ingredients are soaked, ground, and slowly baked, something important happens. Compounds that normally block mineral absorption begin to break down. That means the body can actually access more of the nutrients inside the food. At the same time, the fiber and resistant starch begin to support the gut microbiome, creating a more stable environment for digestion over time. So instead of a quick spike of energy followed by a crash, you get something steady, sustained, reliable. And that's exactly what the body prefers, even if most people have forgotten what that feels like. Now this is where things shift again, because the next combination looks almost too simple to matter. Figs and almonds. Two ingredients that most people would think of as a snack, not a structured meal. But this is the point where modern researchers have started paying closer attention. Because something very specific happens when these two are combined. Figs contain natural enzymes that help break down proteins, making digestion easier and more efficient. They also provide soluble fiber, which feeds beneficial gut bacteria and helps maintain a balanced internal environment. But figs also contain natural sugars, which on their own could spike energy levels too quickly. And this is where almonds change everything. Because almonds bring in healthy fats, protein, and additional fiber. These elements slow down the absorption of sugar, preventing that sudden spike and crash cycle. So instead of overwhelming the system, the energy becomes controlled, stable, sustained. At the same time, almonds contribute vitamin E and compounds that support the gut microbiome and reduce inflammatory responses after eating. So what looks like a simple combination is actually a very precise balance. Quick energy paired with control, support paired with stability. And that's why this pairing is now being studied more closely, because it reflects something the body responds to almost immediately. Now imagine a moment where the body is completely drained, not just tired, but depleted. In that state, the body doesn't need complexity. It needs restoration. Fast, but not overwhelming. That's where another ancient pairing comes in. Dates and nuts. Dates provide natural sugars that the body can use almost immediately, restoring energy quickly. But unlike refined sugar, they come with fiber, minerals, and compounds that prevent that energy from turning into a crash. Then you add nuts, almonds, walnuts, pistachios, and something interesting happens again. The fats and proteins slow down sugar absorption, stabilizing the entire process while also adding nutrients that support long-term function. So the body gets what it needs right away without being pushed into imbalance afterward. And that's the pattern you keep seeing. These meals weren't just about feeding hunger. They were about maintaining function, stability, balance. And when you look at it through that lens, you realize something important. The human body hasn't changed nearly as much as our food has. Now the next combination brings in something different. Not just nourishment, but protection. Pomegranate and barley. One provides fiber that regulates digestion and stabilizes energy. The other delivers powerful compounds that help reduce oxidative stress and inflammation inside the body. When combined, they create a kind of balance that works quietly in the background. You may not feel it instantly, but over time, the difference becomes clear. The body doesn't feel weighed down. It doesn't struggle. It just works more efficiently. And then there's another combination that feels almost effortless. Grapes, goat cheese, and fresh herbs. Sweetness, fermentation, and regulation all in one. Grapes provide polyphenol that support the body's internal environment. Goat cheese, as a fermented food, introduces beneficial bacteria that support the gut microbiome. And herbs once again act as regulators, helping digestion move smoothly. It's simple, but that simplicity is exactly what makes it effective. Now at this point, you might be starting to notice something deeper. None of these meals rely on extremes. They're not high in one thing and lacking in another. They're balanced, structured, built in a way that allows the body to function without resistance. And that's something most modern diets completely miss. Because today, we tend to chase results. Quick fixes, instant changes. But these meals were never about speed. They were about consistency, about giving the body what it needs in a form it understands, over and over again, until balance becomes the default instead of something you have to constantly fight to maintain. And we're not done yet, because the next few meals take this idea even further, showing what happens when food isn't just nourishment, but a way of resetting the body itself. Now this is the point where everything begins to slow down, not in a boring way, but in a way that makes you pay closer attention, because the next few meals are not designed to energize you or impress you. They are designed to reset you. And that's something most people don't even realize their body is constantly asking for. There are moments when your system is overloaded, not necessarily from one meal, but from the accumulation of many. Heavy foods, irregular timing, stress, lack of movement, all of it builds up quietly until the digestive system is no longer operating smoothly. And in those moments, The solution is not more food, it's the right kind of food. Something light, something functional, something that gives the body space to recover while still supporting it. And that's where something as simple as a warm garlic and herb broth becomes incredibly powerful. At first, it almost feels too minimal to matter. Just liquid, infused with crushed garlic and a handful of herbs. But that simplicity is exactly the point. Because when the body is overwhelmed, it doesn't need complexity. It needs relief. Garlic, when broken down, releases compounds that help control harmful bacteria in the digestive system while supporting immune balance. But in a broth, it's delivered gently, not aggressively, allowing the body to receive its benefits without having to work hard to process it. Then come the herbs, especially ones like mint or similar aromatic leaves, which interact directly with the digestive tract, helping to relax it, reduce tension, and ease that uncomfortable feeling of bloating or tightness that many people ignore until it becomes normal. And here's the shift that most people miss. When you consume something like this, the body doesn't react with effort. It responds with ease. There's no heaviness, no pressure, no demand for extra energy to break things down. Instead, it feels like a reset button has been pressed. And that's not a dramatic statement. It's a quiet change, but a real one. The kind of change that allows the digestive system to return to a more stable rhythm. Now contrast that with the next combination, which moves in the opposite direction, not light and minimal, but dense and restorative. Sesame, honey, and grains. At first, it sounds like something sweet, maybe even indulgent. But once again, there's structure behind it. Honey provides quick, usable energy. Not artificial, not empty, but natural sugars combined with enzymes and compounds that support the body rather than overwhelm it. But if honey were consumed alone, that energy would enter too quickly. It would spike, then fall. And that's where sesame seeds come in. Sesame may be small, but they are incredibly dense in nutrients. They contain healthy fats, fiber, and compounds that help regulate how the body processes energy. When combined with honey, they slow down the absorption of sugar, creating a more stable energy release. And when grains are added to that combination, something even more interesting happens. The fiber and structure of the grains further regulate digestion, creating a balance between fast and slow energy. So instead of a sudden surge followed by fatigue, the body experiences a steady, controlled flow of energy that it can actually use. And that's the key difference. These meals don't just provide energy. They control how that energy enters the system. They shape the response of the body rather than forcing it to adapt afterward. And once you start seeing that pattern, it becomes impossible to ignore. Now we move into something even more foundational: bread, olive oil, and herbs. This might be one of the simplest combinations on the entire list. But it's also one of the most powerful when repeated consistently over time. Whole grain bread provides fiber that slows digestion, stabilizes blood sugar, and supports the gut microbiome. But on its own, it's incomplete. When olive oil is added, especially in its pure form, it introduces compounds that reduce inflammation and improve how nutrients are absorbed within the body. And then come the herbs again, subtle, almost invisible, but actively regulating digestion in the background. When all three are combined, something very specific happens. The body receives energy, but not too quickly. It receives fat, but in a form that supports rather than burdens. And it receives regulatory signals from the herbs that help everything move smoothly. The result is not dramatic, but it's consistent. And consistency is what builds long-term balance. Now this is where things begin to connect even more clearly, because the next meal brings us back to lentils, but in a form that completely changes how they interact with the body. Lentil soup with coriander and cumin. It may sound familiar, but the preparation is what transforms it. When lentils are cooked into a soup, their structure softens, making them easier to digest. The nutrients become more accessible, the fiber becomes gentler on the system, and the overall load on digestion is reduced. Then come the spices again, not just for flavor, but for function. Coriander works to calm the digestive tract, reducing spasms and discomfort. Cumin stimulates enzyme activity, helping the body process food more efficiently. And when all of this is combined in a warm, liquid form, the body receives it almost immediately, without resistance. It doesn't need to break down complex structures. It doesn't need to work harder than necessary. It simply absorbs, processes, and continues. And that's why this kind of meal behaves so similarly to what people today call a gut reset. Not because it's trendy, not because it's marketed that way, but because it naturally reduces stress on the digestive system while still providing everything the body needs to function. It's simple, but it's precise. And precision is what creates results over time. Now step back for a moment and look at everything you've seen so far. Every meal follows a pattern. Nothing is random. Each combination balances something else. Fast with slow, light with dense, energy with control, support with regulation. And that's the difference between eating to feel full and eating to function. Because the body doesn't just respond to what you eat. It responds to how those foods are combined. And once you understand that, everything changes. You stop thinking in terms of single ingredients and start thinking in terms of systems. And now we're about to reach the part where all of this comes together in a way that's almost impossible to ignore. Because the final combinations are not just meals. They are complete structures, built in a way that even modern science is still trying to fully explain. Now this is where everything starts to come together in a way that feels almost intentional. Almost like these combinations were never random to begin with. Because the next meal doesn't just nourish the body, it works quietly in the background, influencing systems most people don't even think about. Imagine a simple pairing, barley and figs, with dates added alongside. At first glance, it feels like a basic bowl of grains and fruit. Something light, maybe even ordinary. But when you look deeper, this combination begins to reveal a structure that is far more complete than it appears. Barley brings in soluble fiber, specifically beta-glucan, which slows digestion and creates a steady release of energy. That means instead of overwhelming the system, it creates a controlled pace, allowing the body to process everything more efficiently. Then come the figs, adding natural enzymes and soluble fiber like pectin, which supports the breakdown of food and helps maintain a calm, balanced environment in the gut. And then dates, providing quick energy, but not in a way that shocks the system. Because once again, fiber and natural compounds slow down that process, keeping everything stable. When all three are combined, something very clear happens. The body doesn't experience extremes. No sudden spikes, no crashes, no heaviness after eating. Instead, everything feels balanced. And that's the pattern that keeps repeating. These meals are not designed to impress in the moment. They are designed to work over time, quietly supporting the body in a way that builds consistency rather than disruption. Now think about how different that is from the way most people eat today. Quick meals, fast digestion, immediate energy followed by fatigue. A constant cycle of highs and lows that forces the body to keep adjusting. But these combinations do the opposite. They remove the extremes. They create a steady rhythm. And once the body finds that rhythm, everything else begins to align with it. Now here's where it becomes even more interesting. Because the next structure is not just about digestion or energy. It's about how different foods interact with each other at a deeper level. Imagine grapes, goat cheese, and fresh herbs. Sweetness, fermentation, and regulation all in one place. Grapes bring in polyphenol, compounds that support the body's internal balance and help reduce oxidative stress. But those compounds don't act alone. They interact with the gut microbiome, And that's where the goat cheese changes everything. Because once milk is fermented into cheese, especially in its traditional form, it becomes a living food. It introduces beneficial bacteria that support the gut, strengthen the intestinal barrier, and help regulate inflammation. And then the herbs come in once again, acting as a stabilizing layer, helping digestion move smoothly and preventing discomfort after eating. When these three elements come together, the effect is subtle but powerful. The body processes the meal efficiently, the gut environment becomes more balanced, and the overall response is one of lightness rather than heaviness. And this is where you begin to realize something important. These meals are not isolated. They are connected. Each one teaches the same principle in a slightly different way. Balance over excess. Stability over speed. Function over sensation. And once you start seeing that pattern, it becomes impossible to unsee. Now we're getting closer to the final structure, but before we reach it, there's one more layer that needs to be understood. Because everything you've seen so far has been about combinations, pairs, or small groupings of ingredients. But what happens when multiple elements are brought together into one complete system? Not just a meal, but something that covers nearly every need of the body at once. This is where everything changes. Because there exists a combination of foods that were listed together thousands of years ago, not as a recipe, not as a suggestion, but as a complete description of a land that provided everything necessary for life. 7 foods, each with a specific role, each filling a gap that the others leave behind. And when you analyze them together, the structure becomes almost impossible to ignore. Grains like wheat and barley provide the foundation, slow energy, fiber, and essential nutrients that sustain the body over time. Then fruits like grapes, figs, and pomegranates bring in a wide spectrum of vitamins, antioxidants, and polyphenol that support cellular function and reduce internal stress. Olives add healthy fats and